Thank you. George, I guess you're in the UN system, so you might have a comment.
No, thank you very much. And really heartening to hear my colleague and their engagement with SDSN and the work they're doing. I think I'll make five points. I mean, the first point I want to make is that this is, was referred to as the UN system of sustainable development goals. But I just want you to reflect a moment on, what is the UN? The UN is 194 member states. So it's actually countries that have subscribed to this. It's not the UN. And I think that's a really important distinction to make, is that countries have come together in September to universally accept a sustainable development framework. And I think this is a fundamental shift in development theory and policy at the global level. Translating that into international action now and through work of my colleague here is really important. Second point I wanted to make is that we now know what it requires to eradicate poverty in our time. This is why this framework was established. It's about eradicating poverty, not reducing poverty, which was the fundamental premise of the Millennium Development Goals, which was fundamentally a social development agenda. Which brings me to my third point, that if we are to leave nobody behind, it requires us to do so within a sustainable development framework. It requires us to work on economic, social and environmental issues. It requires us to tackle all the hard issues that we've been discussing in this session today, and particularly issues around environmental sustainability, which has for such a long time been dealt with separately through many of the processes that have been established. The fourth point is that it's important we do this within planetary boundaries. We're recognising we're breaching many of the planetary boundaries or approaching critical thresholds with some of our planetary resources, and it's really important that we try to address this imbalance if we're going to achieve this ideal of eradicating poverty and leaving no one behind. And my last point is really that this is a universal agenda. This is the first time ever that there's been a universal agenda around this issue. So it applies as much as it applies to Greece, as it does to Norway, as it does to Zimbabwe, as it does to Australia, as it does to Bangladesh. So, how countries will interpret this obviously is different, but because the contexts are different. But it really is the first time that we have a universal agenda of sustainable development. And with that, in keeping with the Greek theme, I would just like to stress that this is a marathon and not a sprint. Thank you.